That's exactly what I did last week as well. I was with Kelly. I went, third time lucky, we're on both. Isn't that bonkers? It's exactly what happened last time.
Did you actually log out and log back on again?
No, I didn't know. No, because then I would have got rid of you. I just copied the same links in the same place 3 times in a row, and the third time it worked. Right. So that is good. So all I need to do now is I'm going to press go live in the Facebook one. Okay. YouTube one is already up. We go live there. There we go. Super duper. So theoretically, we are now live in YouTube and on Facebook in the Creativity Found Facebook group, which is lovely. Hi, Mary. How are you?
Hello, Claire. I'm all right. Thank you.
Good. So just as a way of, excuse me, introduction, if you haven't watched one of these videos before, or if you've not heard of Creativity Found before, over the next few weeks I'm going to be doing this, going live, Facebook, YouTube. I'll put some reels up on Instagram afterwards as well with Creativity Found Collective members, so you can find out what it is they do, how they can help you to find a new creative outlet or to sustain and grow your own small business. Just as a bit of backup, the Creativity Found Collective is a promotional and networking membership for artists and crafters like Mary who share their creative skills with grown-ups through workshops, online courses, kits, products, subscriptions, all the ways. It's also a membership for business support enterprises who can use their expertise to help those artists and crafters to do more of the arty crafty stuff that they started their business for in the first place, so they can outsource or maybe learn how to better do some of those background tasks that you have to do, as you'll know, Mary, when you are trying to promote yourself as an artist, crafter's business. Exactly. So if you're interested to learn more about that, simply visit creativityfound.co.uk/join us. All of this is backed up by the Creativity Found podcast, of which Mary has an episode. So you can find out more about her background if you head back to listen to her episode. But now we're going to talk about Mary's teaching, how she can help you get creative, and what she's up to right now. So Mary, start by telling me how you help adults to get creative.
I get people doing embroidery and trying embroidery and getting past that. I can't do it. I didn't do needlework at school. I can't do any of it. It won't look good enough. And just trying to break it down so people start embroidery and understand the well-being benefits of it by actually experiencing it. So doing some stitching to relax you, it reduces your stress levels, it engages reward center in your brain, and the learning something new is brilliant for sustained brain health. So I do that through kits, which I sell through my website and various shops in and around Nottingham where I am. That's growing. And I teach in-person classes. Currently I do mindful stitching classes in various places once a month in Nottingham. And I do kids workshops and I do one-off workshops here and there. So I teach embroidery and I teach the visible mending as well, which is becoming more of a thing to keep your clothes going for longer and actually make a feature of it to make it really customized and put your creativity into what you're wearing. So I think that's where I am. I always get a bit lost when I start. I've got so many irons in the fire at the moment.
Yeah. But they're all interconnected and they all overlap with very many of the same benefits. So you mentioned about the mindful stitching and the well-being aspect of embroidery. Is that something that you've experienced for yourself?
Yes, I live with chronic pain and chronic fatigue due to a condition called Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. And I've spent a lot of time in the past 20 years with stuck in the house with my feet up. Literally, it sounds like I'm wrestling, but no, literally, I can't go and do things, and it can be so frustrating. And embroidery's helped keep me on an even keel whilst I'm doing that. It's really helped my mental health because I feel productive when I'm doing it. I don't feel like I'm just wasting time on waiting for everyone to come do things with me. I get lost in my stitching. I do the majority of my sewing in front of the telly. In the evenings, I've designed my mindful stitching concept and kits so you can just pick it up and do it in front of the telly. There are no complicated instructions. There's no silence needed. You can do it around life happening, but it means that you're doing something productive and beneficial with your hands and engaging your brain rather than scrolling on your phone constantly or drinking that glass of wine or G&T. You get the relaxation that you would do from a glass of wine, but without the negative effects from it. And so I want people to embrace embroidery and see it as another well-being tool they have and demystify how you can do it.
I also like the idea, as you said, about sitting in front of the telly, but it's one of those um, activities that you can actually take with you as well. You said about there's not lots of complicated instructions. You can actually put it in your bag like a book to go on the bus to work or to go
Exactly.
on an aeroplane. It's portable, because that's often something that gets in people's way, is the fact that something needs a space or it needs equipment, but this doesn't in that way, does it?
In fact, my kits come in little tote bags, so you can do that. And especially with the mindful stitching, where it's about doodling and thread and coming up with your own ideas and just letting it wander. You're not having to constantly refer to a pattern. So all you need is the thread, the hoop, needle, scissors, bit of material, and off you go. And it can fit in your handbag. It can live next to your comfy seat. You could have it at your desk at work and go and do it for an hour at lunchtime, because you only need 10-15 minutes to start getting that relaxation effect. And it is eminently portable. In fact, I've done it sat watching test matches at Trent Bridge, which is around the corner from me, or doing it in a cafe when you just want to people watch a bit. And we all end up just staring at our phone whenever we're in a queue, when we're out like that. And it's quite a good way of reconnecting with the world, even though you're not just staring aimlessly, because we're all lost in our digital world, and this just brings you back to something a bit more tangible. And I'm just as bad as anyone else for spending too much time on their phone. So I have to make a conscious effort not to pick it up next time I'm sat in the car waiting for my son's football training to finish, that sort of thing. It's that rush to feel productive and feel like you're doing stuff all the time, and that almost idolizing busyness. Well, actually, let's bring that back and do some craft, do some embroidery, and you can be productive in a total different way. But because of the way it engages your brain, it engages the reward center, which overwrites your fight or flight response, which then reduces the stress hormones surging around your body. It really calms you down and chills you out, unlike the micro dopamine hits and always chasing that next almost like surge that your brain gets into looking at your phone all the time. So you can just pop it in your bag, have it there and then with you, and you need very little equipment to get going with it. And also, there's no right or wrong way. What I find is adults tend to be like, I won't do it. Especially a lot of my contemporaries are like, they don't want to do it unless it's going to look like it would on the box. But if you've just starting, it's not going to look like it would on the box. You've got to practice to get to that stage. And we can all learn something from how children learn. I teach school clubs, and some kids do some dog's dinners of backstitch and it's not straight at all and there are big gaps, but they're really pleased because they've learned something new. And we all need to remember that it's not going to be perfect unless you practice, but just get started.
Yeah, that's a very important point that comes up a lot with guests on the podcast, about sometimes it's not actually the thing that you produce that is the important thing. It's the act of producing it, or the act of the action of creating it. And the same about doing things wrong. I think I have a lot of grown-ups that come to my dance classes, and there's no way you're going to be able to do everything that I do in that class the first time you come to that class. There's a lot of things to learn, but you can do other things that are
Yeah.
equally enjoyable, and you might look different to me or the person next to you, but like you say, it's not wrong.
I encourage people, not when I'm teaching in classes, not to unpick. It's like, just watch the progression. Don't unpick it. Go with that one went wonky. If I was doing wreaths for Christmas wreaths, we were sewing those in my mindful stitching classes in December, and I'm like, well, you know, foliage isn't uniform. Does it matter if that one's at a slightly different degree? When you step back, no one's going to notice, because you can just get paralyzed in that, well, that's not right, that's not right. Actually, it's the process, not the output. And with a lot of my classes, where we just do little patches almost, it's the hour and a half of connecting with others, taking that time out for yourself, doing the embroidery, learning something. And I'm like, you can do something with this if you want, and if you hate it, doesn't matter, just go in a drawer, because it was coming and doing the embroidery and spending that time connecting with other people and being creative was more important than what you do with it at the end.
Yeah, absolutely. So you've covered quite a few points there with regards to the question that I normally ask on these, which is why you think it's important for grown-ups to be able to try new creative activities. So we've covered quite a few there. Are there any other ones you think of?
I think it's important to get yourself out of ruts. We all get into ruts on routines, especially when you hit sort of adulthood and middle age, or I'm at the stage where the kids need less attention in the evenings and stuff. So you've got a bit more time to yourself, and you're like, oh, what am I going to do? Well, try something. Go on that course that teaches you how to do it. Learn it from YouTube, buy a kit, and just give yourself that time, because self-care, I'm a great believer in self-care needs to be lots of little things every day, every week, not a big spa day once a year. If you see what I mean, self-care is using the nice moisturizer, it's doing the embroidery that you enjoy, it's being creative, it's doing the lots of little things every day, rather than necessarily a spa day or a big holiday that you're so run ragged for. The one day is not going to undo all of that. I physically can't go and do a lot of that stuff anymore, so I've learned how to take the enjoyment from the little things, whether it's using a nice bit of scent or bright red lipstick, which I love a good lipstick, and making time each day to do the small things, rather than thinking, I haven't got time for that, I'll wait till the big things. And then when you stop, you just get the cold, because it's well proven that, you know, everyone gets colds at Christmas because they start relaxing and the hormones change in your blood, and they go, your body's almost like, I can be ill now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's brilliant. Yeah. A little bit, and a long term, something that can happen naturally
And
within everyday life.
with embroidery, especially the way my kits go and I teach it, it's not something you have to remember where you were. You don't have to remember how many stitches you've done. You don't have to have marked things off on a chart. You can just pick it up as and when. So if you don't touch it for 3 weeks, it doesn't matter if you can't remember how many rows of knitting you've done. You just keep going with it.
Yeah. Oh, that's really interesting. You've been a member with us here and been joining us on our meetups and things since the beginning, pretty much.
Yeah,
So, why do you like to be, a part of a community for you as a small business owner?
I think being a micro business, it's just me literally in my spare room, is a very isolating thing, and you can get stuck in your own head, especially if, like me, you've started a business for the first time. There's a massive learning curve. For me, my background's engineering, so getting into this whole creative marketing thing, digital admin, social media, using it properly, has been a huge learning curve. And by being part of a community of other people doing similar things, you can share ideas. They understand what you're doing, how you're approaching things. You get tips. We were just talking about the way you're streaming this, and it almost means I don't have to go off and research everything from scratch.
Yeah.
And it gives me a network that's wider than my immediate part of the world. So I live in Nottingham. I've done an awful lot of in-person networking in Nottingham and built my reputation up that way. But by being part of Creativity Found Collective, I'm connecting with people all over the country, which then can lead to other opportunities. It's widening who's seeing me on LinkedIn, on social media. And there's a lot of cheerleading in the creative community, I think. Everyone wants each other to do well and to help each other rather than it being a competition, which is a really nice thing. So it's really good just to meet other people doing similar things.
Yeah. And when it's someone like yourself, you've got kits, they can go anywhere.
Exactly.
So you
Yeah.
can widen your network across the UK and it could open doors anywhere in the country and you're
You
not
just don't know.
restricted. Mm.
Yeah, I think from what I've learned from a lot of other small business people is it just takes that one person to stumble across something and that could give you an opportunity you'd never know about. I know someone who she designed my necklace, Sarah Christie. She's got amazing handbags. She was doing an Instagram live and a buyer from Phoenix watched it and she was in there. So you just never know. It's about putting yourself out there, talking to people, getting to meet people. And I always say people are really interesting. So don't be scared of them. They're just as nosy and you as you are in them. And that's as well as the online networking. It's one of the reasons I love doing my in-person classes is to get to meet people. That's what I missed from my old life of was going out and meeting different people. And I'm just doing it in a totally different way, despite my mobility issues. I think online networking is brilliant. In fact, I felt less isolated during the pandemic because everyone was doing it.
Yeah.
Now people are all back to normal and I'm sort of not forgotten about, but things like this with the online meeting, it's really interesting to meet different people and find out how things are happening in other parts of the country and in other parts of the world.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree. I too, with the podcast and with the collective, well, the collective came out of the podcast was, yeah, in the biggest lockdown was actually when I widened my digital horizons and that just widened everything, and guests for the podcast are from all over the world now, which is absolutely super. Australia means I have to start a bit earlier in the morning, but we can all meet up.
I think that's it. The world is a very connected place and there are really interesting people all over it. And if you're just stuck going to your local business networking on your local high street, you're missing out on not just opportunities to promote what you do, but just to understand different cultures and different ways of doing things, and also how your customers live. Because these people are dealing with people who are potentially your customers as well. So you get that better understanding, which goes all back to customer personas and marketing and stuff.
Very good.
I've been
You're
doing
on
my
that.
courses. Yeah.
Perfect. And what's coming up for you?
Well, this year, I am about to launch a local after school club, which I've been toying about. So I do one in a school now, but I'm going to launch one locally in a cafe I use in West Bridgford. So for anyone who's listening wider afield, it's right by Nottingham Forest's ground and Trent Bridge Cricket Ground. I'm going to be doing an after school club there. And I am going to try and really do a bit more on my online presence. So I was talking about I'm going to do some YouTube videos looking more about how historical needlework inspires what I do. So you can see that link through history into what we're doing now and the whole and why I use different techniques and teach slightly differently to a lot of other modern embroiderers. I would say I am a modern embroiderer, but I do things based on a different approach to people who are, a lot of people are self-taught and use stranded floss. I use different threads. So, and based off the back of that, I want to launch my haberdashery online. So I get things that I sell in person at my classes. And it's sort of like a curated haberdashery. So the stuff you can't pick up in Hobbycraft and things. And
Brilliant.
I want to get that on my website, but that's going to involve upping my photography game. So I need to work on product photography quite significantly as well.
Well, there you go. You
Yeah.
see, there's just all the other elements that.
So many. I've got the local university doing a project for me on finding me more artisan shops that I can place my kits in as a wholesale option,
Brilliant.
because I can't physically do craft fairs. So I'm seeing it as a way for promotion to get my kits in wholesale in artisan shops and gift shops. And again, because I can't go out driving around the country to find it, one of the student projects is that engage the University of Nottingham to do a project helping me on that.
Oh, wow. That's so good.
There's so much assistance out there with local universities if you plug into it, and in Nottingham we're lucky to have two really good ones.
Oh, brilliant. Oh, well done you. And that's, it gives a project and it gives a practical learning for the university students as well. So it's win-win,
Yeah,
isn't it?
yeah, and as a small business, they're like, oh, thank you. I'm like, no, this is brilliant for me. It's saving me. Last year they looked into packaging for me and stuff, and like saving me hours of research. That it's a lack of resource and time and money you have as a small business, and they really want real world business problems. So it marries up well.
Yeah. Oh, that is so interesting. Excuse me. Thank you so much, Mary. That was absolutely lovely. Anything else you wanted to mention?
I don't know, to be honest. There's so many ideas going around in my head all
Yeah.
the time. My problem is picking which one to focus on
Yeah.
at each time. But I think it is, my main thing is just don't worry about not being good at whatever creative thing you're having a go at. You don't have to be good at it. You just need to play.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of people who try all sorts of different crafts before they find the ones that's for them. You know, a friend of mine did all sorts, and then she did crochet, and that was it. You know, and so try different things. Go out and meet people at all the craft events that pop up and workshop. I do sip and stitch. I do mindful stitching. There's paint versions. There's clay versions. There's all sorts. Why not just go out and do something a bit different to meet people and do the creativity side as well? Because it's not as scary as just having to go and talk to someone without just staring at each other.
Yeah, that was a bit like you were saying in the cafe. You can actually sit there and look, and you don't look quite like a weirdo staring at people.
Yeah.
You could do
You
your
can do
people
your
watching
sewing.
without looking like a stalker.
Well, it just gets you off a screen, doesn't it?
Yeah. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. Well, you can find obviously lots of other people who you can engage to go and try a creative activity at creativityfound.co.uk. In the comments here, there is a link to Mary's page, which is creativityfound.co.uk/Mary Broddle, I think. And I'm not sure if I gave you Mary Broddle Embroidery, but it's all linked in there, and it's easily found on the classes page. It's very easy to find all of our members. On that page, you will find links to all of Mary's social media as well, including the YouTube that you were talking about, Mary. So you can see the new things she's promised herself she's going to do.
I'm aiming for a decent video a month.
Very good.
That's realistic.
Yeah, very good. So you can try all of that. You can find all of the links for anything you want to find out about Mary. Also in my link in bio currently, Mary's at the top there, and your podcast episode is at the top of my link in bio as well. You can find out more about Mary's engineering and her life leading up to where she is now. This recording, as we said earlier, this has been streamed, and this is using Riverside, which is the platform I also use to record the podcast. And I very much like it. It does clever video things as well, which is great and saves me a little bit of time. There is a link in the comments here in the description here for Riverside. There is also a link to Buzzsprout, because those are the people I host my podcast with. So if anybody is thinking of podcasting, I suggest you give that hosting company a look. They are brilliant, and they've given me my tickets to go to Podfest in Orlando.
That's
So
so
to
exciting.
go to the conference, Buzzsprout will give me the actual creator pass for the conference, which is lovely. So there are lots of links in the description. Thanks again, Mary. Really, really super to speak to you.
Thanks for
And
asking
I'll,
me.
and I'll see you soon.
Yeah, okay.